Well, while PD is fitting a new catalytic converter and new back box to the Igo, we decided the centre pipe was actually good to go again, but the catalytic converter wasn't. So we replaced that, as that is the more expensive part. As he's putting that back together again and doing the last bits and bobs, and I'll show you some of the new stock I've picked up. He came out with me yesterday evening. We picked a few cars up. So first up is a car that will get a lot of people mad, because for some reason electric cars do. I have no idea why. They're just an alternative, aren't they? You make your own choice. If you do lots of travelling all over the place, you probably want a petrol or a diesel car. If you do shorter runs or you do a lot of travelling everywhere and you're happy to wait and have a coffee while it charges, electric's good for you. You choose your own course. I'm a car guy, I like all cars. So anyway, picked up this Enyaq on a 71 plate with only 13,000 miles. It's a Sportline, really good looking car. Took it home and back last night. It is what you expect from an electric car, isn't it? Super quiet, always has power if you want to overtake something. Smooth. I'm impressed at how this one uses its charge, to be fair, compared to the other electric cars. How do I describe it? Basically, when I know a journey's like 10 miles, it ends up only using like 8 miles somehow. I think maybe because it's one of the latest electric cars I've had, probably much more effective regenerative braking, possibly. But it started off with 130 miles range when I picked up, which was about half. So I think the range is about 250 officially on these. I ran from Barnstable out to Bideford area, ran around there a bit, come out here and back, and it's down to, what was it, down to I think 100 miles or something now. Yeah, it's pretty good. Yeah, that one, I think we'll probably do a bit more content on that in a different video. But yeah, really nice car, pretty much as new. Probably going to trade that out. I think the retail on that's something like, is it 28 grand? I don't think we're in a situation people are prepared to pay 28 grand buy 28 grand cars off me here, are they? They're going to see that at the front of a Skoda dealership, I would have thought, aren't they? Or an electric car specialist. So I'll probably put that up for trade. Prep wise, it's a new car. There's no prep. It's ready to go. Ready to go, that one. What else did we pick up? We picked up this really nice Volvo XC40. Nice because it's cream and black rather than just black on black. This one has done 60,000 miles on a 70 plate. This one I've also traded straight away because again, I thought it was a bit lumpy and a bit pricey for me. Now, this game is all about cash flow, so why would you trade it? Why would you not hang on to it? One, again, this is above the sort of price point that I find tends to work for me, for my setup. And if you're going to turn up here, and Pete and I are covered in grease and oil from rolling around under a 10-year-old Igo, are you really going to spend 28 grand with me? Even though I'm probably the kind of person you should, because I know more about cars than most sales guys. But yeah, it's just you got to sell the right cars to the right environment. So I got that one underwritten, and I have sold that one out already. And I'm using it as an excuse to go and see my mate Sheik up at Motor For You. I wanted to go and check his setup. He's got 300 cars. We've been chatting over WhatsApp for ages, and I want to meet the guy because he's a bit of a legend. He's the cojones on that guy. The way he will grow his business is insane. And this is exactly his kind of cup of tea. Again, it's a car that also probably be financed, as would probably the Skoda, and I've let my handed back my financial handed back my consumer credit license because I don't want to do finance. It's absolutely terrifying, the world of finance at the moment. And one that I'll probably possibly hang on to, a Cooper Countryman, because it is a Park Lane. Its retail is under 10 grand, so that's sort of I don't want to go much more than 10 grand retail really. It's in really good condition. It's got a full history. One owner from new. I've driven it back here, needs a wheel bearing and possibly a loose heat shield underneath, I think. The wheel bearing is really noisy. They're big old things, these Countrymen, aren't they? Oh, big old beast. So we picked up those three, and I picked up a £100 car as well, a £100. This is how random the buying at Chops Garages. We have a Skoda Enyaq that's potentially got 28 grand retail price, and I'm picking up a £100 Astra. That's it. But again, I don't know how much more clearly I can explain it. If you've got good relationships with people, the best way to keep them going and keep the stock flowing is buy everything. You'll always find a home for it. Always find a home for it. As long as you bought it at the right price, you'll always find a home for it. Even if you have to break even on something like the Skoda, and you can make a little bit of money out of the other cars, it's the way to do it. But the key thing with this game is cash flow. So you might say, why would you sell? You know, you probably could sell that. and I might be even possibly able to sell that. But cash flow wise, we know the cars that keep the doors open and keep turning all the time, which is these little cars, the Nissans. Now, if we're spending time fiddling around with those, we can't get these cars ready. They're tying up a lot of money. They take much longer to sell, and that's how you get into a cash flow situation where you're getting a lot of trouble. Suddenly, you've exhausted all your resources, stuff isn't selling, and you have to do desperate things to get the cash back in. Take a quick win on stuff like this, get the money back into the bank account. It can keep funding the small stuff that's turning over really, really quickly, and that's the way to make sure your bank account always looks healthy, and you don't risk getting, because you can have a successful business you like. You can, all the cars sell and you're making good profit off them, but if you run out of cash, everyone will start shutting their doors on you, so you will have big problems. So the key thing is keeping that cash flow going. Don't overextend yourself. So, and like I say, so at the end of the day, I keep the guys happy by buying all the stock every time they offer it to me. Someone else might be trying to cherry pick stuff from within the stock. I'm not. I'm going and buying it all, so that keeps them happy. I can get the stuff that I do want to cherry pick it on, sell the other stuff quickly, put the cash back in the bank. That gives me the funds to go and buy more i10s, more Swifts, more Notes, and we'll also have the time to get these cars turned around. So hopefully that makes sense why I wouldn't hang on to some of these motors. So Petey the Machine, or Two Glasses Pete as we like to call him, sometimes even Three Glasses, is onto the BMW X1 that our buyer wants to pick up ASAP. Went in for MOT, lots of rubbery stuff that is gone on it. Lower arms both sides, need doing at the front, which Pete is fighting with right now. I imagine that'll be a lot of fun. He's just in the process of undoing the old ones there. Got to do that. I think we had some... Pete, do you remember what else it was on the MOT? That was a centre donut, wasn't it? Yeah, centre donut, a tyre, and we had like water. So, it's this donut here, I think. Yeah. Which is, you can see up here, it's all perished and cracked. Lucky that doesn't look too hard to get once the heat shield's out of the way. Pretty good access to that by the looks of it. I might even do Pete a favour and douse that with WD-40 in a second. That, some tyres, wasn't it? So it was that centre donut, front arms, tyres, wasn't it, Pete? Yeah. Yeah, so nothing outrageous, all rubbery stuff. All rubbery. This little lift is earning its keep at the moment, big time. That was a worthwhile investment. It didn't do much for a while other than allow me to get wheels off, but now Petey's in full time on the care in the community plan. We're able to use it all the time. Didn't do that, so I got away with it. Petey has given up on to be fair, I did have a go as well on the BMW. Those lower arms will not come off, and we've had a look online. You need a special splitter for them to get them off, and the prop shaft we thought was a case of just take the bolts out, pull the rubber donut out, put a new one in, but it actually splined and goes into the rear differential, so the whole prop shaft needs to be dropped. In these circumstances, Peter and I discussed this, it is better for us to hand that over to Moores, where there's 3 guys with all the tools, with all the ramps, and for us to move on to something else that just needs discs and pads, tyres, exhaust, the simple stuff. No point us fighting it for hours and hours. When we drop it down to Moores, and Moores are brilliant, they will literally only charge me the labour time for the book to fit in that, rather than if it takes them a couple of hours to work out how to do it. So, I forget what that expression is, whatever it is, better part of valour or whatever. I'm sure you'll say in the comments down below. So we'll leave that now, and we're going to let Petey get off early today. I'll probably try and get off early after putting a video together for you guys as well. We've potentially sold the Toyota Yaris as well today to a family friend that wants a first car for their daughter, and they want to spend a decent amount of money. I've obviously offered them a bit of discount, which is the riskiest thing to do for friends, because other people you're ending up doing the most amount of work for. When it's like 7 or 8 months old and it goes wrong, you'll probably end up helping them anyway. So they probably are the riskiest cars to do. And yeah, like I say, we've agreed to trade sale on a couple of cars that are going out today as well. So it's not been a bad Saturday overall. We kept things ticking over, kept money coming back into the bank account as we spend more money on stock. We've got some more to pick up on Monday. But that is it for a week at Chop's Garage. Comment down below if you'd rather I just did all these short videos and one really big long one once a week. So, out in the Enyaq, because I got a lot of comments in my earlier video of people that saw this car in the background and said it is going to be up for sale. Maybe I'm wrong, and maybe there are people watching the channel that would buy a car of this value off me, so I thought I'd do a quick, very short review on it, because I know people don't like reviews. We're going out for coffee in it now. It drives absolutely beautiful. We've got this great big screen here. I've got Brooke on camera today. Great big screen here that I've got my phone connected to, Android with Guns N' Roses on, because Brooke and I are going to go see Guns N' Roses soon. This tray down here actually charges your mobile phone. If you put your mobile phone in here, it charges your mobile phone as you go along. We've got obviously cruise control, we've got lane assist, automatic wipers, all the stuff you'd expect. We've got the regeneration paddles here. I'm assuming these are, I haven't done my research, but all the other electric cars I've had, these are the paddles that decide how much regen you want to automatically brake. We've got heated steering wheel, we've got heated seats. We're on 30% now with 64-mile range left on it. As I put earlier in the video, when I came back, I thought I'd actually double check what it was doing, and we did a 17-mile journey and it only used 11 miles of charge. Inside is lovely. We've got all this stitching along here. We've got a carbon fibre finish there. We've got suede sports seats, which I'll do a little bit of footage of the interior of the suede sports seats in a bit. It obviously is silent on the move, really. Loads of power. You've always got plenty of torque to pull you away. Now, the biggest surprise for me this has been with this one, 21-inch Sportline wheels ride beautifully. Normally on an ICE car, normal petrol cars have been driving with the bigger wheels, they crash all over the place. But I'm going over a manhole cover now, got a small pothole to the side. Even though we've got these great big alloys on there, it rides absolutely lovely. I'm really impressed with that, really smooth. Yeah, I mean, at the moment, I'm not seeing the downsides other than the fact I've not got a 3-pin adapter to charge it in the unit, so I've had to order one of those up because normally they're with the car. This one's just got the fast charger cable on it, so I'll put the 3-pin adapter on it. I do like to turn the lane assist off, because on the country lanes here it gets confused when I trim the corner a little bit. That's another thing I'd say as well. Surprised at how nicely it handles. I thought with the weight it would be, you know, here we go, regenerative braking. As I come up to the roundabout, I've got it on pretty high. If I come off the brakes, it's slowing the car up pretty much entirely on itself, and that's what's getting me some mileage back in. We did actually just jump a mile from 64 to 65 just on this little bit of time we've been recording. Yeah, I'm surprised how well it handles. You can fling it about and it doesn't feel too bad at all. So yeah, I mean, I'm quite sold on it. It's a really nice car. Again, it is horses for courses. At the end of the day, if you do loads of big miles, then probably the electric system isn't, you know, of chargers probably isn't there enough to be able to support you at the moment. But if you very rarely do long journeys, and this has got like a 250-mile range, I would have thought that would do a lot of people's weekly runs. Yeah, I mean, I don't see any reason to knock it at all. So Brooke and I learnt a few things with the car just as we're going along. Volume up and down, it's just run your finger along there, and to open the sunroof. Yeah, to open the sunroof, you just slide your hand across there to do the shade as well. You don't actually press a button, you just put your finger over it. It does it just off of your finger going across the panel. Which is pretty doody, isn't it? So quick look at the interior I didn't show you earlier. You've got these nice sports seats because it's a sport line with the suede inset stuff. Perforated suede here, half leather there, really nice stitching carries on over the centre armrest there, onto the dashboard. One thing I say about this car is it still smells like brand new. It's got that new car smell to it. We've got a full panoramic roof with a shade, all electric. Back seats are mint like the front seats. Really nice. Nice black headliner there. And in the boot, we've got loads of room in the boot. Loads of room in here. Parcel shelves there. Plenty of space, obviously standard 60-40 split. But if you put those seats down as well, you'd have a ton of room, wouldn't you? So yeah, really nicely done out interior on it. But obviously with 13,000 miles, it's pretty much like brand new in here, apart from the bit of mud on the footwells from us driving it about. But that great big touchscreen. Yeah, I'd agree with people's comments that I think that probably on previous videos that these new screens can be very distracting if you're not careful. You have to set up the app on your phone and set up a user profile. and then you put in a pin every time you get into the car. But that also allows you to preset the, I think, temperature of the car before you come out to all that kind of thing. Obviously with Android link on it, I've got Google Maps on it, which is probably the most effective satellite navigation you can get now as well. I've got my Spotify on there. From my tunes, I turn Bluetooth on my phone for the moment while I'm video and recording, because it keeps going back to the screen. So yeah, I mean, there is quite a lot here. Can be a bit distracting if you're driving until you start to sort of just know where everything is. Then it becomes less of an issue. But initially, yeah, I'd recommend, if you got one of these, to sit and play around with the screen for a while and really be confident where things are, because you don't want to be looking over it all the time while you're driving. Price wise on this, it's 27,995 is what the retail value of the car is. I'll try and find out what they were brand new and put that on screen and get an idea of how much of a saving it is versus new. But yeah, I've got no problems with it at all. Being electric, I think it's a fantastic driving car. But I know the comments will be full of all kinds of stuff like, what about when you need to replace the battery? Well, how much is it to replace an Ingenium engine or a PureTech engine or any of those? Like I say, we're regularly seeing cars come in now that are 10 years old with electric batteries that have done 50, 60, even 100,000 miles, and the batteries have lost very little of their range. But I will say there's just something about electric cars that, I don't know what it is, people just aren't reasonable about the arguments about them at all. They've just got this, they've never even driven one, they've got this set mindset on it, and no matter what you say, if you say anything positive about an electric car, it's the end of the world. Just hop into the comments down below. I'm sure you'll be seeing stuff by now. Anyway, as always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.